everybody, and welcome back to D-Race Shop. This is the next video in the series on our 1998 Valkyrie 1500 Honda. Now, as I stated earlier in some of the previous videos, this bike's been set up for at least 5 years or more, so our carburetors are all completely glued up on it. Now, I've already got the fuel tank pulled off because we've done the liner in the fuel tank a couple videos before. So, today we're going to concentrate on the carburetors. I'm going to show you how to remove them, how to clean them, put them back together, and how to adjust them properly once you get the machine back running again. All 6 of them. It looks really complicated, but guys, I'm going to assure you, if you take your time, there's really nothing to it, and anybody can do it. If this old redneck can do it, you can do it too. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the airbox. What you want to do is you want to back off the screws that holds the clamps onto the intake tubes on all 3 carburetors on both sides. Next, there is a 6mm bolt right back here on the back side of the airbox that attaches it to the backbone of the frame. Also, there are 3 large hoses on the rear portion of the airbox down on the bottom. One of them is your crankcase vent, the other one is an airbox drain, and the other one is just an emissions control device. But just unplug all 3 of those, and then we're going to work this thing out here. Next, we're going to remove the throttle cable covers and the choke cable covers on the sides of the carburetor. It's these little silver strips right here. It's held on by 3 Phillips screws. That'll allow us access to the choke cable here on the left side. And over on the right side, it'll allow us access to the throttle cables. Next, I'm going to remove the choke cable here on the left side. And then we'll take the throttle cable loose over on the right side. Now, there's a couple of hoses that we got to disconnect up here on top of the carburetors, and what this is your secondary air supply control valve. What this does is through this tube right here that hooks to the airbox, fresh air is pulled from that through the solenoid valve to the exhaust ports on the left and right hand side of the engine. And what this little valve here does is when you close the throttle, it closes that valve so it keeps the exhaust from backfiring. So we're going to disconnect this vacuum hose here, then we're going to disconnect these 2 tubes down where they go down to this little block down in here. That's a reed valve, a set of one-way valves for the left and right sides. So take both of those loose right there, because this valve is going to stay with the carburetors when we remove them. So just take those loose. Next, we'll remove the carburetor drain hoses. That's right there. That's attached to the bottom of the carburetor bowl, right next to the drain screw. So you want to take those loose and just leave them hanging, just like that. Do all 6 of them the same way. Next, we're going to remove the intake runners that go from the carburetor to the cylinder head. Some of these will have a vacuum hose attached to the back side of them. If they do, just unplug the hose, leave the hose setting, take the clamps loose and the 2 bolts, and then we're going to take every one of these off and set them aside. There's also an ignition coil over on the left-hand side of the engine. I'm going to go ahead and take that loose and get it out of the way, just to give us a little more clearance when we get ready to pull those carburetors through. So we're just about ready to pull those carburetors out, and there's one other thing you want to do. This wiring harness here that runs along the bottom of the frame right here, you're going to take these 2 clamps loose where they ride on these little studs on the frame. Then we're going to take that harness and we're going to pull it up out of the way, just to the inside, just like that. That's going to give us a little extra clearance here between the carburetors and the frame. Then we're going to take the carburetors over toward the left side, pull them out the left side of the frame. One other thing you want to take out before we remove these carburetors, there's a big plastic deflector shield that goes between the carburetors and the radiator. So you want to pull that out of there, and that'll give us a little more clearance, help get those carburetors out of the frame. One set of Valkyrie carburetors, all 6 of them. All right, let's tear them apart. Here's what it looks like without the carburetors in it. All kind of stuff in there. One thing I like to do, anytime I've got carburetors off of a rig, I like to cover up these intake ports. So I usually just take a piece of a rag and I stuff it down in there. That way we keep any dirt or any loose hardware from finding its way down there and possibly getting on top of a piston. Can't be too careful. So what other surprises awaits us within those carburetors? Man, I can't wait to find out.